once read a poem written by a visually impaired friend of mine titled "Do Not Judge Me." When I first read the title of the poem, I remember thinking, what's Lucky complaining about this time? But having read through that poem, I realized Lucky wasn't just making some imaginary or perceived complaints of some sort of injustice done to him. Lucky was actually speaking about the level of discrimination we face as persons with disabilities and the low level of awareness about persons with disabilities in our society. So when I was invited to give a presentation at this great occasion, I decided I was going to talk about disability, my experience, not my limitation. Because disability actually is my experience. It does not necessarily have to be my limitation. Most of the limitations we face as persons with disabilities is brought about as a result of the barriers put in place by society, which prevents us from full and effective participation within a larger society. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eloka Oduah, and I am visually impaired. I lost my sight many years ago, just before I turned 6 years old, following a very, very intense headache, which lasted for about 4 weeks without a moment's pause. After which, I lost my sight. Doctors were at a loss as how I inexplicably came down with such a mysterious headache. But then, it was suggested that due to the intensity and duration of the headache, it probably burnt the nerve that supplies light from my brain to my eyes. And so I was diagnosed with optic nerve atrophy. Well, that did not stop me from pursuing my academic goals. So I've had all my education, from primary, secondary, and tertiary, as a visually impaired person. I'm currently running a master's degree in peace studies and conflict resolution, still as a visually impaired person, obviously. Please please do not pay mind to the fact that my eyes are open. Trust me, they don't see anything. See for light though. But then again, there are over 30 million persons living with various kinds of disabilities in Nigeria. And this community of persons with disabilities will continue to grow owing to various factors such as man-made disasters, and sometimes, like me, you just come down with some very inexplicable circumstances or situations. Whatever the case, the fact still remains that life becomes more difficult than the challenge living with a disability poses. This is because our society does not create room for inclusion. Persons with disabilities face a myriad of challenges in Nigeria, but I'm only going to talk about two, which are very peculiar to me. The first is wrong generalization. Most people believe that persons with similar kinds of disabilities should be able to have the same kinds of talents or ability. I'll tell you a very short story. Way back when I was in secondary school, there's a friend of mine who is a very talented singer. He's a multi-instrumentalist, he's a songwriter, and he's a producer. So one lazy Saturday evening, while we were out in the field enjoying the breeze and the atmosphere, E. Daniels was strumming his guitar to the delight of everybody as usual. And then a mutual friend walked up to me and asked me, "Why don't you know how to sing?" And then I said, "Because I don't have the talent for singing." And then she goes, "Oh, but E. Daniels is your friend, so why can't you sing?" And then I said, "Oh, last week, your friend ran for your house during the inter-house sports. Why didn't you run for your house?" And then she goes, "Because I can't run." And then I said, "Oh, she's your friend. You should be able to run." And then she goes, "Well, you and E. Daniels are really good friends, and you both are special students." And that's when it struck me that because we are both visually impaired, she assumed that we should be able to have the same singing ability. Well, this experience actually opened my eyes to the fact that it wasn't just at that point I had experienced things like that. Right from then on, I've always been faced with issues like that. People asking me, why can't I do this or why can't I do that? The truth is, we all can't be E. Daniels or Cobhams or Steve Wonders. Our disabilities are not the same with our abilities. The second challenge is actually poor access to education. To the best of my knowledge, there is only one school right here in Abuja that provides education for visually impaired students at the primary level. At secondary level, there are not more than 3. At the university level, sometimes you're denied the opportunity of studying certain courses just because of your disability, even when you are qualified and able to study that course. They tell you, we can't give you this course because you can't see. The first university I reached out to when I was to go for my first degree, they said, we don't have facilities for you. They didn't even give me the chance to explain what I needed and the fact that they didn't need to do anything extra to accommodate me in their system. Now, what is the way forward to all these things? In order to create an inclusive society where persons with disabilities can participate fully in a larger society, we need to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each individual. We need to also understand that one disability differs from the other. Even if you share the same type of disability, your component in your brain content is not the same. And so, it all flows from a place of understanding, because it's only through understanding can there be acceptance. An enlightened society is an accommodating society. The message here is not sympathy, but empathy. Sympathy is when you come across me and then you realize that I'm visually impaired, and then you go, oh, yeah, sorry. Don't worry, God will do it. You've not really helped me in any way. If anything, you've made me feel worse than I should have felt. But empathy is understanding that I have a disability and you trying to find out what exactly you can do to ensure that I participate in everything that you are doing. That way you are helping me to be more productive and to interact better in a society. We also need to change the narrative. The fact that most people do not know so much about persons with disabilities, they act most times out of ignorance. And we need to do a lot more to bring to the fore that persons with disabilities are not entirely useless, as some people think. I don't know if anybody has come across any Nollywood movie that projects persons with disability as a successful person. Most times, we are projected as persons who deserve pity, and the moment you have a disability, your life somersaults. Well, I'd like to demonstrate something that Nollywood, I don't think, would show you. When I first started my education, I used what you call Braille to read. Braille is a system of reading for the blind where you read with your fingers on raised dots. But then in 2012, I was introduced to technology which has made life so easy and more convenient for a visually impaired person. Also, inclusive education is a very, very important tool to alleviating or improving the level of awareness of the society concerning persons with disabilities. When you have persons with disabilities go to schools with their counterparts who do not have disabilities from a very young age, they get to learn and see that persons with disabilities can actually function very effectively in a society, provided they have the necessary support and environment to thrive. So the idea here is catch them young, so that when they all grow in the society, they don't see persons with disabilities as lesser human beings. Finally, I would enjoy everyone seated here and everybody else who would get to watch this to not just think of us as persons with disabilities. We are simply human beings who happen to have a disability. Thank you for listening.